There has been 4 new bloodlines since the last bloodline tier list has dropped, so I'm going to be bringing you guys the newest bloodline tier list. A lot of guys have been asking for this, so of course it's about time I brought it to you guys. It's been about a month and a half, so yeah, that's quite a while for no updates whatsoever on the bloodline tier list. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like, let's go right to the video, guys. Alright, so as you guys can see, I did change a few of the tier list names, so there's going to be useless and usable instead of just good and bad, because I feel like they're more, you know, they're adjectives that just work better for the actual game. Also, I'm just going to go ahead and rank all the ones that I actually do find useless ahead of time, so you know I don't waste time with the tier list actually doing that. All right, so there's the useless tier right there. Okay, obviously guys, these ones are here as jokes. I'm gonna go ahead and just take these ones out, but this is the actual useless tier right here. I actually feel like there are very few genuinely useless or bad bloodlines in the game right now, because a lot of bloodlines, they're at least meh, like they're at least usable somewhat to some extent. But these bloodlines, I'll go through a quick overview of them. Okami glitches out your character half the time and makes it so it doesn't work. Minakami really doesn't have anything that is worthwhile using besides the actual third ability, and even then it's a lot worse than pretty much every other ability of the same type. V-Mud is literally just it's terrible now. I mean, like the stun AoE is a lot shorter than it used to be, the stun time is a lot shorter, the actual damage is a lot less. So yeah, V-Mud's just in a really bad spot right now. Bubble is really bad because of the type of combos that are actually in the meta right now, because you could perfect block at 150 damage, and Bubble you can literally just easily perfect block any combo that actually uses Bubble. Gold Sand is actually just not that good whatsoever. When it comes to the actual Gold Sand, I do feel like Gold Sand, the abilities are very lackluster and just copies of other abilities. Bolt literally has almost no stun time and almost does no damage. And Inferno, you know, trash. Inferno is just absolute garbage. Anyone named Inferno, hashtag nerd. All right, so getting into the actual tier list right here. So Akuma is going to be going into really good. Akuma actually had the auto dodge length increase. Nothing else from Akuma has changed besides the non-knockback M1s, but I do feel like Akuma is still kind of in the same place with the meta, because I feel like all of the Akumas kind of went down in the tier list because of the meta. It actually changed. Bankai is still really good because the playstyle stun, but all these other bloodlines are a lot worse than what they used to be. Now, Urahaki Jokai is going to be going into usable as well. I feel like Urahaki Jokai, it's in a really bad place right now. I actually do think they're going to be giving it some buff, but as it stands right now, it's in a really bad place. Third ability has no iframes anymore. Second ability, you can't use a mid combo. Pretty much every good aspect of Urahaki Jokai just isn't there anymore, but it still is a usable bloodline. Now, Ashstorm's going to be the first med one. Ashstorm's actually a god spec in med. There's not really much to say about it. The damage doesn't do as much as some of the other bloodlines that you'd want to do damage with, and it also just isn't very good for utility. Now, Azarashi right here, Azarashi's actually be going into Met as well, probably honestly below, no, above Ashstorm and Met, because the second mode of Azarashi is absolutely amazing, but the actual abilities themselves are pretty terrible. Azim Seiko's actually going into usable, probably at the top of usable, has one of the best counters in the game, and counters are in the meta right now. That's pretty much the only reason. In fact, I'm actually going to put it below Urahaki Jokai just because of that. All right, so going on to Bankai. Bankai is going to be going to almost broken. I feel like this is the perfect tier for Bankai now. It's not overly busted, but it still is pretty good. That placelock stun is really good for the meta right now, because the meta right now is long range burst combos, because perfect blocking, you know, you can do it 150,000 damage, and it's a really big thing right now, basically just free iframes, and being able to stun someone far away, do that 150k damage, and still be far away from them is a huge advantage when compared to other stuns. And that's for the fact that the auto dodge is okay, and then the actual damage of Bankai is okay. Black Shock is actually going to be in usable, probably at the bottom of usable. I do feel like Black Shock overall is a pretty good bloodline now, because they actually did buff the range of the Z-spec, so now it's really good for just close range combos. Not for the fact that the stun time was increased, it actually does block break pretty easily now. Now, Blood is actually going to really good at the bottom. Actually, yeah, I'll put it at the bottom really good. It's not as good as it used to be, because actually, you know, I'm not going to say it every single time I say this, the meta has changed, but it still is a really good stun bloodline, and it can be equipped to element slots. Now, Boramaki is actually going into usable as well. Boramaki is going to be going to the top of usable. That second ability is kind of the saving grace of Boramaki. If it wasn't for that second ability, Boramaki would be trash. But as it stands, the second ability is so good that the bloodline itself is going to be usable because of it. Now, Clay is actually going to the top of meta. I do feel like Clay is mainly meant for just iframing out or just being annoying in general. Other than that, there's not really much that Clay can do besides just running away. Now, Cobra is actually going to the bottom of usable. I do know that the Cobra mode is extremely good, but the actual abilities of Cobra are trash, hence why it's going to be unusable. Crystal's going to be going to Met as well. I'm actually going to be putting Crystal to the bottom of Met. It has one really good ability, but it also is an EKG with no mode, so you're kind of just stuck only using that one move of Crystal. But it is a common bloodline, so you know, it has that going for it. Now, Dongan actually had, there was a while where you could actually use the counter mid combo. That was fixed. I'm pretty sure Dongan is going to be receiving some buffs, but as it stands right now, it's going to be going into the top of Meh. Dongan overall really isn't that great of a bloodline without that counter, because even though it does have long range high damage abilities, it's extremely hard to hit on anyone that knows how to press the right mouse button. Like, come on, man. Diva Ren. Now, Diva Red Goku, this is one that I actually have not seen anyone use for an extremely long period of time. Ever since they fixed the C-spec glitch, I don't think I've ever seen anyone use this bloodline. It's just not worth the rel coins. it's just not worth grinding for. So because of that, I'm actually putting it to the top of meh. Hashtag rip Diva Red. Diva Red is kind of in the dirt right now. Even after the buffs, it's still not that great. Third ability definitely needs removed from the iframe global cooldown. It needs to put on the iframe attack global cooldown. That would be a lot better for it. Not just the fact the second ability is still absolute garbage. First ability, it's really impossible to combo someone with. In the C-spec, why not just use something like Rengoku? Now, Dioseko is actually going into almost broken below Bankai. Now, the first mode of Dioseko is amazing. The actual abilities of Dioseko, they're very usable. I actually didn't know this, but the third ability Dioseko, the one that has a bunch of end lag, you can actually extend M1 combos off of. So, you know, that's a really cool aspect of it. Not for the fact that it has a second mode, which is also quite good and does tons of damage. Eastwood Karashi, this is going to be one that I never expected, but it's going to be going in almost broken. I'm going to say it. All right, so I went ahead and actually added letters to the actual ranking, so you guys kind of get a basis of where the letters are in my specific tier list. Eastwood Karashi is going to be going to an almost broken. I feel like Eastwood Karashi, you know, it's a really good ability now. It has really long range combo extending abilities, has iframes, has a really good mode, and that is also really fun to use. I gotta say, Eastwood Karashi is one of the more fun bloodlines to use. I can see why people liked it. It wasn't really as good as it is now because, you know, it kind of just fits in the meta better now, but Eastwood Karashi as it stands is a really fun bloodline and a really good bloodline, hence why it's going to be an almost broken. Emerald's definitely going to be a D tier bloodline. I'm actually putting it to the top of D tier, even though it is a really good EKG, it still is lackluster, doesn't have a mode, and it's kind of just a better crystal. Now, Explosion, this is what I do not understand why they buffed it. Explosion is going to be going into usable above Zimseko and below Arahaki Jokai. Explosion is just one of those bloodlines that are just really good, but as it stands, Explosion, I do actually feel like Explosion the second ability is such a good ability, it has to be unusable just for that ability alone, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, if you guys haven't used Explosion second yet, literally go use it. It's amazing. Now, Forged Rengoku, obviously, guys, Forged Rengoku is going to go to the bottom, almost broken. The mode is extremely broken. I don't think they're ever gonna nerf the mode of Forged Ren. It still does tons of damage. It still is really good. It just doesn't really fit into the meta anymore because the actual abilities of Forged Ren just really aren't that great. Now, Frostfire is going to be going to the probably the bottom of usable. If you're going to use Frostfire, you might as well just use Scorch instead. Not to mention the fact that the stun will actually mess up your combos sometimes. Ghost Karashi, this is going to be going into meh as well, probably to the top of meh. Ghost Karashi is one of those bloodlines. It used to be the best in the game. It's not really the best anymore. It really has a lot of flaws with the bloodline. It's super close range, really not that great overall. Giovanni Shizen is also going to be going into usable. I'm actually putting Giovanni Shizen probably below Black Shock and usable. Giovanni Shizen, I actually feel like the mode does tons of damage, but other than that, it's not really a great bloodline. But simply because it's mode carried, I do feel like it should at least be usable because the second mode does tons of damage to people. Not for the fact that the actual moves, you can use them, they're just not very good. Now, Hair is actually going to be usable as well. I'm actually putting Hair probably below Cobra and above Frostfire. When it comes to Hair, the C-spec is the only thing of Hair you're going to be using. The actual abilities of Hair, they're pretty garbage, even compared to some of the other abilities of the game. And honestly, if you're using Hair for anything other than the mode, then you're kind of just using Hair wrong. Wanzayame is going to be another meh one. I'm actually putting Wanzayame above Ghost Karashi and meh. Wanzayame, it's literally just the mode, and even then the mode, you know, it's still a really good mode, but it isn't enough to quite bump it up to usable. Now, Ice is kind of in the same boat as Crystal, but it's actually a lot worse than Crystal. I'm actually putting Ice at the bottom of meh. Ice has one ability that's really good for combo extending, and that's literally it. Same thing as Crystal, but it actually is a lot worse than Crystal, hence why it's going to be a meh. Actually, I'm actually going to put Ice at the bottom of the top of useless. Now, Ink is actually going to be going into usable, probably below Giovanni Shizen right here. No, I'm actually putting Ink probably below Black Shock. The only issue with Ink, from what I've seen, is literally just that Ink has terrible auto tracking. Ink has some of the worst auto tracking I've seen in the game. If they would fix the auto tracking, Ink would be a much better bloodline because it literally relies on auto tracking to work. But when the abilities actually do work, they are quite good. Now, Iron Sand is going to be another usable bloodline, probably to the bottom of usable. It's mainly meant for just tail beast grinding and boss grinding, but just because of that, it's definitely going to be unusable, just because it is usable for some aspect of the game. Now, Eternal, this one actually makes me sad, but I feel like Eternal, I don't know, I'm just going to put, okay, bottom of usable, just because I know people like Eternal. That's going to be the main reason why I put it there. But when it comes to Eternal is just, you know, the third ability is so bad. I just want them to fix the end lag on it. If they fix the end lag on the third ability of Eternal, it will be a really good bloodline afterwards. But as it stands right now, it has one ability that will literally hurt you more than it helps you. But I mean, even though that is the case, I guess I will be moving it probably near the top, actually, because I do feel like Eternal, the mode is good, the counter is good, and the actual stun is good. Now, Jeremaki is going to really good, probably at the top of really good, because Jeremaki, they actually did buff it, so it actually is usable now. You know, that's pretty surprising, right? The mode is probably really good. The only issue with the mode is that the M1s knock you back so far. I'm telling you, if they would literally remove the M1, it would be a much better bloodline. But as it stands right now, the abilities are really good from Jeremaki. It overall is a pretty good bloodline, and you know, it's fun to use as well. I mean, like you hop at frogs and run around. Now Jokai is literally just the worst version of Arahaki Jokai. I'm good putting it to the top of meh. Pretty much has all the same flaws as Arahaki Jokai, but it does even less damage. Kakatsu. Now Kakatsu is actually putting it to meh as well. Putting Kakatsu probably below Diva Red and meh. When it comes to Kakatsu, it's mainly meant for M1 combos. Anything other than M1 combos, it really isn't that great. And there's like 5 million M1 combo bloodlines in the game. Now Kaijin actually did receive a shadow buff, so now it actually is a better bloodline. When it comes to Kaijin, I'm actually putting Kaijin probably above Frostfire, below Giovanni Shizen. Actually, I'll put it above Giovanni Shizen. It overall is a better bloodline than it used to be. It's a usable bloodline. Now Kamaki. Kamaki's actually going into usable as well, probably above Boramaki. I kind of refrain from putting bloodlines into really good, almost broken, or broken, because these are the bloodlines that are just meta defining. They are the best bloodlines in the game. Usable are just bloodlines that are usable. They're good. You can use them in PvP if you want, and meh is just the ones that you should kind of avoid using, and useless are the ones that you should definitely avoid using. Karada is going to be going to meh as well, probably to the top of meh, even though Karada does tons of damage. I actually do feel like Karada isn't the greatest bloodline in the game. They actually did nerf a bunch about Karada. Besides the fact that the C-Spec does like almost 100,000 damage, Karada really has nothing going for it besides just pure damage output. Now Kenichi. Kenichi's going to be to really good as well. I'm actually putting Kenichi to the top of really good. It does have that really good mode. That's kind of the main reason why Kenichi's going to be this high up. After they buff Kenichi, you'll probably be back into almost broken. But as it stands right now, the mode does carry it enough to at least being really good. I mean, just auto dodge modes are just really good in general. Now, when it comes to Dokai, Dokai actually is not nearly as good as it used to be, because you can still perfect block even while the ability is going off on you. So Dokai, I'm just going to be putting in usable, probably below Explosion, above his Zipseko. Dokai, it was the meta for a little second there, but it just is an okay bloodline now. All right, so I'm going to start going through the bloodlines a little bit faster if I've already covered them. Kachu, pretty good chi drain bloodline. I'm going to be putting it to usable. Probably, it's actually probably going to be going above Ink. Just a pretty good chi drain bloodline. It's one of the only chi drain bloodlines in the entire game. Lava, it's just mainly a damage dealing bloodline. There's not really much to say about it. It's mainly meant for damage. It is really good at doing it part of the game, and hence why it's going to be unusable. Light Jokai is not nearly as good as it used to be, so Light Jokai is actually going to usable as well. I'm putting Light Jokai below Eternal in usable. Light Jokai is actually, you know, it isn't nearly as good as it used to be. It still can be used for a lot of different scenarios, but they actually did heavily nerf Light Jokai, so it's just not nearly as good as it used to be. Mecha Spirit's still a really good bloodline in my opinion. Even though they did nerf the second ability, the first ability is still a really, really good block breaker. The second ability still can be used for combo extending, and third ability is a really good escape ability. Now Minakaze is actually going into usable as well. I'm putting Minakaze at the top of usable. Minakaze third ability is a really, really good ability, but the actual other abilities, oh, all right, you know what, fine. You guys will get your way. I'm putting Minakaze probably in really good in the middle. Minakaze second is terrible, but the actual other abilities in Minakaze are very usable. It's a very usable bloodline, and it actually can be really good in certain scenarios. Mud, you know, is best bloodline in the game, absolutely broken, S+ tier. Okay, jokes aside, Mud is probably going to be going into meh, probably honestly below Diva Red and meh. The only use for Mud is actually the high damage Mud Dragon and the stun, but even then there's just better abilities now in the game. Naramaki, I feel like Naramaki is definitely a very usable bloodline. I'm going to be putting Naramaki probably at the top of usable. They did buff it enough to the point where Narmaki's okay bloodline to use now, and it is very, very usable, hence why it's going to be at the top of usable. Nature's going to be another meh one. Half the time Woodbine stun doesn't even trigger, so I actually feel like just because of that, it definitely should be ranked pretty low down there, but you know, it still can be usable in certain scenarios. But just because of that, I actually feel like Wood should definitely be at the bottom of meh. Nectar is a lot better than a lot of people think, but I still think it is just going to be unusable. I'm actually putting Nectar into usable right here, just because I feel like Nectar, you know, even though the second ability is really good, it has a good mode, it has good abilities, I do feel like they're very hard to use, so that's why it's going to be in the middle usable. Odin Sabru is going to be another really good one, probably to the bottom really good. It just has really good bloodlines for the meta right now, but the second ability you could just jump out of, you know, that's a big flaw of Odin Sabru, but if they don't know how to jump out of the second ability, you will absolutely crush them. Not to mention the fact that the mode is actually super stun heavy, and that's always a good thing. Paper is actually going to be going into usable as well. I'm actually putting Paper probably above Nectar in usable, even above Arahaki Jokai. I feel like Paper is a really, really good damage dealing bloodline. It has a lot of good damage, and that's mainly what it's meant for, and you can equip to element slots. Atomic is actually going into probably into usable above Iron Sand. Atomic is just, it's a good damage dealing bloodline. There's not really much else to say about it. Now Pikasenko is actually going into really good as well. I'm actually putting Pikasenko to the bottom of really good. It has, you know, honestly has a better ability than Odin Sabru, so I'm putting it above it. Has good iframe attack. That's really all there is to say about Pikasenko. It does good damage, good combo extending. Now Vine, even though it is a very good troll bloodline, actually is just going to be going into usable, probably above Dokai. I think that is the perfect place for Vine. Not really much to say about it, mainly meant for trolling. Ryan Akuma, this is one that I actually stopped seeing for a while, and it is for good reason. Ryan Akuma is going to be going into really good, probably honestly just above normal Akuma. Ryan Akuma, it just really isn't that great anymore. It has a pretty good counter. You know what, honestly, just because of that, I'm actually putting it probably above Minakaze. When it comes to Ryan Akuma, has a good counter, good damage output, but they actually did nerf the third ability quite a bit. Ryan Red is definitely going into almost broken. I'm actually putting Ryan Red to the bottom of almost broken right here. Has really good abilities for the meta, has good stuns, you know, good auto dodge, has good counter to like a lot of different abilities in the game, and actually does have a pretty overpowered second mode. Rengoku is going to be our first S+ tier broken bloodline. Rengoku mode is amazing. It has a really good pull ability as well. First ability is good for combo starting, block breaking, and third ability, you know, you can use it to stall out fights. I think the third ability is trash, but some people really do like the third ability, so yeah, definitely a broken tier bloodline. Really good mode. Red Shiki is definitely going to be into the probably to the near bottom of usable. The only usable ability of it is actually the counter, so even though the counter is quite good, it's going to be ranked there. Riser Kuma. Now Riser Kuma is a sad story to tell because I actually do feel like Riser Kuma is definitely going to rank probably below Ryan Akuma. I feel like Riser Kuma kind of did kind of hardcore fall out of the meta. It still is a really good bloodline, hence why it's going to be really good, but it isn't nearly as good as it used to be. Now Raika Shizen and Shizen. Raika Shizen is actually going into really good just because of the damage output alone. The AoE size is absolutely massive, so I'm putting Raiken into really good right here. Normal Shizen is going to be going into usable. I'm actually going to be putting Shizen above paper and usable. I do feel like Shizen, just the pure AoE size of Shizen is quite good, combined with the fact that Raiken does do lots of damage. Now normal Sabaru is definitely going into usable as well. I'm actually going to be putting normal Sabaru probably below hair in usable. All right, so I went ahead, I saw that there was a ton of bloodlines in usable, so I'm actually going to be putting an IT tier, which is going to be at C+. I'm just going to be moving these ones down, the ones that are right here. I'm just going to be moving them down to IT because I feel like that's a pretty good place for it in my opinion. All right, so now that we thinned out the actual usable tier, I feel like it's just, as there's more bloodlines being added to the game, the tier list just needs to expand to encompass more, you know, different types of bloodlines, I guess. All right, so for Sand is just going into IT tier. I do feel like Sand is the greatest bloodline in the game. It's definitely not the worst after the rework, but it still has a lot of things to improve upon, but it still is okay in a lot of different aspects. All right, so for Station right here, Station is going to be another IT one. Station is going to be going probably, I'm actually putting it above Giovanni Shizen, below Lava. It is good for combo extending, but that's about it when it comes to Station. Scorch, obviously going to be a really good bloodline. It's really good just for M1 combos and things like that. Actually, no, I'm actually putting Scorch into usable. I feel I completely forgot that Scorch isn't in the meta anymore, just because close range combos really aren't that great anymore. So I'm actually putting it below Shizen. Sound is actually going into usable. Sound does tons of damage, so I'm actually putting Sound probably above Black Shock and usable. Sound is a really good bloodline just for combos in general. Actually, so good to the point where I'm going to be putting it above paper just because of the damage output alone. Storm is actually a bloodline that is a lot better than I thought it was. I'm actually putting Storm probably above Explosion and usable. Storm is honestly a pretty good bloodline when all things considered, and actually has abilities that actually do counter a lot of different iframes of the game. Smoke is going to be an IT bloodline. Smoke's going to be going probably honestly at the top of IT because it actually has a really good traveling ability. It has a good counter and has a good stun ability. Steam, yeah, it's going to be very next to Inferno on useless. Hashtag Inferno Steam are useless, man. All right, so for Glacier right here, Glacier is going to be another IT one. I'm actually putting Glaciers at the top of IT because it actually does have that one ability. Okay, no, just because of that one ability, I'm actually putting it into usable. Probably above Dokai and usable. How about above Explosion and above Storm? Yeah, that's a good place for it. First ability of Glacier is extremely good. The mirror ability, of course, probably one of the best abilities in the entire game, combined with the fact that Glacier does have a little bit of damage other than that as well. Menza, this kind of saddens me to say, but Menza is all right. You know what? All right. I feel like Menza can have some case scenarios would actually can be useful. So I'm actually going to be putting Menza into the bottom of meh. It's not a very good bloodline. That's pretty much all there is to say about it. All right, so for Tsunami is going to be another IT one. I actually feel like Tsunami is very good for PvE, but that's about it. But just because it's good for PvE means why it's going to rank a little bit high in this list. Now, Senko's actually a really good bloodline. I'm actually putting Senko probably above Pika Senko because Senko first ability is quite good. You could equip it to your element slots, which is a huge plus. It's a huge bonus. And combined with the fact that it actually does have a time stop, has a good attack ability, and it actually does have a pretty good mode that actually does reach you. But the first ability is going to be the main reason why it's going to be in really good. Sriracha, this is going to be another IT one. Sriracha is going to be going into IT, I'll put it above hair because it actually can be good for combo extending in certain scenarios, but is kind of just a terrible bloodline, all things considered. Shiver Akuma, this is going to be another really good one. I'm actually putting Shiver Akuma below normal Akuma. Shiver Akuma is just really annoying to fight. There's not really much to say about it. It's kind of just a worse Forge Rengoku, and all things about Shiver Akuma just mainly meant for annoying people, but it can be useful in certain scenarios and is good for stalling out fights. Satori Akuma, obviously guys, another really good bloodline. I'm actually putting Satori Akuma probably above Jiramaki and really good. Satori Akuma overall is just, it's a really good bloodline. I mean, the mode is really good, the stun is good, it has a good iframe attack, and just, you know what, almost broken tier. That is probably where Satori Rengoku goes. That's probably a good spot for it. Now Sengoku is going to be another usable bloodline. I'm actually putting Sengoku probably below Naramaki and usable. I'll put it above Naramaki and usable. Sengoku overall is kind of mainly used for the third mode. The first ability has too much end lag. The counter you can just iframe out of, and then it just hurts you more than it helps you. And then the stun's kind of the only good ability of Sengoku besides actually the third mode, but it is a very usable bloodline, hence why it's going to be unusable. Next up is going to be Shadow. Shadow's going to be another usable bloodline. I'm actually putting Shadow probably below Eternal and above Shizen. Shadow has one of the longest stuns in the entire game besides Strange, and actually is pretty good for just combo extending in general. Now Shindai Rengoku obviously going to be another broken one. I'm actually putting Shindai Rengoku probably below normal Rengoku. I actually feel like Rengoku is actually better than Shindai Ren right now, just because Shindai Ren, kind of the only thing it has going for it right now is a pretty good block break, has a okay, never mind. Definitely going to be high tier broken. I completely forgot the counter. They actually buffed the counter so it takes less chi now. And it pretty much how Shindo Ren works. If that counter hits you a single time, you instantly lose. If they get the second mode and they start spamming M1s on you, you instantly lose. Has a really good combo extending block break that is super long range, almost impossible to hit in all honesty. It just has a lot going for it, combined with the fact that it actually does have the throwables, which are also insanely overpowered. Shindai Kuma, this is going to be one that is going to surprise a lot of people, but Shindai Kuma is actually going into almost broken tier. Shindai Kuma is going to be going below Forge Rengoku and almost broken. The clone buff kind of did make the bloodline a lot better, combined with the fact that the actual mode is also quite good. Now Tengoku is going to be another usable bloodline. Actually putting Tengoku at the top of usable just because it has a bunch of just super raw damage output. You know what, I'm putting it to the bottom of really good above Raiken just because it has so much damage output that it makes it really good just because of that. All right, so Typhoon is going to be another really good bloodline. Typhoon's going to be going to really good just because I do feel like Typhoon, you know, just the damage output is quite good. I'm actually putting it above Blood. The second ability, one of the best damage abilities in the entire game right now, and just because of that, it's going to be going to really good. Now with Xenodokai is obviously a PvE bloodline. I'm actually putting, I'm not going to go ahead and make the PvE tier like I usually do because I have so many of them. So just because of that, Xenodokai is going to the bottom really good just because it's really good for PvE. That's the only reason. Bankai Inferno is going to be another usable one. I actually put Bankai Inferno above Scorch and below Shizen. I actually put it below Shadow. Bankai Inferno does obviously still have that breakaway ability, but there's so many breakaways in the game now that Bankai Inferno really has nothing special anymore. But it actually does still, you know, do quite well in certain scenarios. Alfirama Shizen is going to be another almost broken one. Alfirama Shizen is actually going below Shindai Kuma above Ryan Ren and almost broken. I actually feel, no, all right, bottom almost broken is actually pretty proper for Alfirama Shizen. It has good damage output, good combo extending. That's going to be about it. Doku Tengoku. Now, Doku Tengoku is actually going to be unusable as well. Doku Tengoku is probably going to be going near the top of usable, probably above normal. We'll put it at the top of usable. They just need to fix the counter. That's all there is to Doku Tengoku. After that, it would be an okay bloodline to use. It would probably be a really good tier if they were to fix the counter. Dude, Satori Ren. This is one that I did not expect to do, but Satori Ren is going to be going into the bottom of almost broken. I can't believe I'm doing this. Satori Ren, they buffed it to the point where it's almost broken. Satori Rengoku lovers rejoice because it actually is an extremely good bloodline now, especially with the first bloodline ability doing 120,000 damage. Unmodded, by the way. Web, I feel like Web is still a really good bloodline. I'm actually putting Web to the bottom of really good. I do feel like Web, you know, it does have its flaws, but it also is quite good. I'm actually putting it, it's very comparable to Blood, so I'm actually putting it near Blood. The second ability is very move stackable, and overall, it's just a really good bloodline. Shiro Glacier, another usable bloodline. Shiro Glacier is actually going into usable, probably near the top of usable, probably actually at the top. That's a good space for it. Shiro Glacier overall, just a pretty good bloodline to use. There's not really much to say about it. Shiro Glacier has a lot going for it just because of the mode. Now, Kagoku. Kagoku is going to be another really good one, probably at the top of really good. I feel like Kagoku, you know, at the top of really good is a good place because even though it does, the mode is really good, the second ability is really good, the other abilities are kind of trash, so that's why it's going to be really good instead of almost broken. Now, Van Helsing. Van Helsing is going to be another almost broken one. Now, Van Helsing is going to be going to the bottom of almost broken because it does require a lot of skill to use. No, I'll put it above Satori Ren and above Alfirama. but it also is an extremely good bloodline. If you know how to use Van Helsing, it's one of the literal best bloodlines in the entire game. Vengeance. Vengeance is going to be going into the bottom of Broken. I know a lot of people are starting to not like using Vengeance. Vengeance is still a really good bloodline in this game. It's just not as good as the other bloodlines. And Vengeance overall, ever since they actually did, you know, change the perfect block system, it kind of went down in the meta, but it still is okay to use, and it's still really fun bloodline to use as well. Not just the fact that it has one of the best second abilities in the entire game. Raiju Kenichi, another broken one. I'm actually going to put Raiju Kenichi to the top of Almost Broken. The mode does carry it, and I'm going to acknowledge it for the first time ever. Raiju Kenichi is going to go to the top of Almost Broken and not in Broken tier, just because it is extremely mode carried. Hashtag Raiju Kenichi users are nerd. Jin Shiki. Now, this is one that a lot of people do not really know about, me included, honestly. I'm actually putting Jin Shiki probably into really good. I'll put it below Web and really good. I think that's a good place for it, just because Jin Shiki, it has good abilities that work pretty well together, and that's really all there is to it. Six Pass Naramaki is going to be going into Broken below Shindai Rengoku. Yes, you heard that correctly. Six Pass Naramaki below Shindai Rengoku and Broken. There's not really much to say about it. Literal best second mode in the entire game. It's one of the highest damage modes of the game, if not the highest damage. Someone should do the, you know, math on that. Combined with the fact that it has insanely high stats. Chi Drain mode. It has every single ability of Six Pack Naramaki is usable and good. So the iframe attack, extremely good. Second ability, good for just combo extending or just pushing people away from you. First ability, if you land it, it's literally just a free air combo. Like, Six Pack Naramaki has so much going on for it right now, combined with the fact that the mode is absolutely amazing. By the way, guys, what is your favorite bloodline of Shindo Life? If you're in the comments below, we'll actually be checking them out. Now, Ryan Gaiden. Now, a lot of people, you know, they actually don't know about Ryan Gaiden. I'm actually putting Ryan Gaiden probably into Almost Broken below Satori. I gotta move Ryan below Ryan Gaiden right here. Okay, so when it comes to this, I do feel like Ryan Gaiden, it is an extremely good bloodline, but it isn't as good as the other broken bloodlines of the game. But it still has a lot going for it. It still is really good for comic setting. It just has long-lasting abilities, and you know, the mode is kind of just point and click. Rune Concho. You know, I feel like this was going to make a lot of people mad. Rude Kacho is going to be going to really good, probably below Ryan Akuma. Yes, you heard that correctly. Rude Kacho. Okay, I'll put it below Kenichi. Rude Kacho is not a very good bloodline for it being a god spec of Concho. It doesn't even drain as much chi as Concho, but it still is a really good combo bloodline. It has a really good counter, and that's kind of all it has going for it right now. I really hope they do buff the chi drain on it, because otherwise it's going to be kind of a bloodline that everyone hates to spin, and it is extremely rare. Last but not least, Strange, most broken bloodline in the game. I already did a video over this. If you guys did not see, I did a bloodline review over Strange, so I'm not really going to go into depth as to why it's the most broken bloodline in the game. Has a really good counter, does tons of damage, really good block break, an extremely overpowered mode, and really good M1. So it pretty much has everything you would ever want out of a bloodline. It probably is going to get nerfed, but enjoy the bloodline before it gets nerfed. That's how it always is, right, guys? Anyways, guys, that's it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit the guys. Bye bye.